I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
And this
is Bromance.
Nailed it.
So today we're joined by a CFL great who's taken his talents from the field to the broadcast booth, Milt Stegall. Milt went from a standout athlete in Cincinnati to a record-setting 14-year career with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He became one of the most dominant receivers in CFL history, earning multiple All-Star nods, the league's most outstanding player, and a place in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, not to mention a street named after him in Winnipeg.
So, Milt, you've had an incredible journey in the NFL and the CFL. I'd just love to hear a little bit about, your origin story, where you come from, how you got to the NFL, and then subsequently, the CFL. Just tell us a bit about that process.
Right. I grew up actually in Cincinnati. I grew up there, Cincinnati, played sports coming up all my life. I played all sports, not just football. I ran track. I played basketball. I played volleyball. I did gymnastics. I did tennis. That's all I wanted to do growing up is playing sports. When I got to high school, I can only play three, so I played basketball, football, and track. And then I was fortunate enough to get a full athletic scholarship to Miami of Ohio, which is like an hour and a half east of Cincinnati in Oxford, Ohio. And I really didn't have an inkling to play pro football until my junior year. My receiver coach at the time, Sean Watson, he had a buddy who was playing for the Chicago Bears, and he came to one of our spring practices, and he saw me, and he pulled me to the side afterwards. He was like, "You can play professional football." So that's when I said, okay, let's see what happens. So after college, I didn't get drafted my senior year, didn't go as planned, but I did have a bunch of free agent shots and end up signing with my hometown Cincinnati Bengals. So signed with them, played 3 years with the Cincinnati Bengals. We were pretty bad. I think in my 3 years, we only won we were more than pretty bad. We only won like 15 games in 3 years, but I was excited that I got an opportunity to play 3 years of NFL football with my hometown team. From there, my contract was up. I signed with the Green Bay Packers, but I was cut from the Packers, and I assumed my football career was over with. And then come to find out, there's a team up in Canada who had my rights, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And as they say, the rest is history. And I tell people all the time, and people who know me have heard this before, me signing that contract with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in September of 1995, besides marrying my wife having my two sons, was the best decision I ever made in my life, because I'm still reaping the benefits from it to this very day.
That's
Wow.
fantastic. That's awesome. You mentioned that coach that saw you and pulled you to the side and said, "Hey, you have a real shot here." I think a lot of people have folks like those in their journey that give them that sort of that permission to go and pursue something. I know I had a really good pal on my hockey team that told me, "Hey, man, you're funny. You're articulate. I think you'd be a really good actor." And it was just the way. The way he said that, and that the moment in my life when that information came in, that really sort of changed my whole entire career trajectory. Can you speak a bit more about that person in your life, and if you stayed in touch with him, or was that just sort of a pat on the back and say, "Hey, you're going the right direction"?
Yeah, and speaking of you acting, you're not as pretty as me, but you have the look to be an actor. You have that look, so I can
Yeah.
see why somebody would say that. But no, it was just a one-off. As I mentioned, my coach, it was one of his buddies who was playing tight end for the Bears, and it was just that one day. He pulled me to the side, and he said, "You can play in the NFL." He almost said, "You can play in the NFL right now." So that's just wow. And because I went to Miami of Ohio, let's be honest, not many professional football players are coming out of Miami of Ohio, so I never had the thought of being a professional athlete. I was fortunate enough that no one had to pay for my schooling, so I was excited that I got a full athletic scholarship. So I never thought that I had an opportunity to play the NFL until this gentleman, and I can't even remember his name. I can't remember. If I looked up their roster from 1991, I would probably see it, but he just pulled me aside and said, "You can play in the NFL." So after that, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot and see what happens."
That's awesome.
I'm a fantasy football guy. Like, that's all I really know about the NFL. Like, I grew up, around sport, obviously, but like now
Right.
I'm in 4 or 5 leagues with my buddies, and I love it. Like, every Sunday was like we show up, we watch football. So I gotta ask, just like as a fan, like how was that first NFL game for you?
It was overwhelming. I remember there were some guys on the team at the time, and there was this guy named Anthony Munoz. And for folks who know football, know Anthony Munoz may be considered the best offensive lineman who ever played professional football, if not the best, top five. So I saw him in the locker room. I was like, hold on. I remember him my senior year because they were doing like outreach stuff. My senior year in high school, he was at my high school speaking to the, our school, and now I'm playing with this guy. So it was overwhelming, but then I had to bring myself back to say, okay, there was somebody who told me I could play in this league, so I have to not say these guys are, better than me, but they're my peers and I can play right with them. So it took like a week. We had mini camp back then. It wasn't training camp. So it took like a week or two for me to realize that because the game was so much faster. The guys were so much bigger, so much stronger. Everybody was so much faster. It took me a second to get caught up. But once I finally got caught up and my confidence level kicked in, I was good to go. The first game I played in, it was a preseason game, and I was a nervous wreck. But it was the best thing that happened to me. The opening kickoff, I returned it for a touchdown. I opened up some
Whoa!
eyes. Yeah, open it,
Let's
and I w- and I
go.
w- and I wasn't supposed to be returning it. There was another guy back who they wanted to return it. He was a backup running back. He was like 220 pounds. He was faster than me, and they wanted him to return the ball, but he didn't want to return it. So he told me to get on the side where they were going to kick it. They kicked it to me. He made a great block. A hole opened up, and I returned it for a touchdown. And that was a big reason why I was able to make the team.
Did you block out like during that run?
I was running scared. I was running scared. And the crazy thing about it, they only had so many receiver numbers
Yeah.
back then. I was wearing number 40 because there were no 80 numbers. I didn't get the 80 number until I made it. I was wearing number 40 as a receiver. But I mean that's one of the greatest memories I have in my football career.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
When you think that decision was made, just was it like a team play? Like he figured you had a better opportunity to make that touchdown,
No,
or just
the guy name is Stegall Miles. He was our 8th round draft pick. This is when they had 12 rounds. This was the last year they had 12 rounds, and if he was 8th, he just didn't want to return it. He was like, "Nope, you go over there and get it." And I was happy because I didn't want to block. I mean, you got guys coming down the field who are 220 pounds running fourth. I didn't want to block these guys, but he was like, "Nope, you go in there and you'll catch it, and I'll block for you." So man, I probably still owe him something because I don't know if I would have had an opportunity to make the team if it wasn't for that return kickoff.
Oh, that's
Yep.
incredible.
And it seems like, I mean, obviously I've known more about the hockey side of things, but obviously like a rookie coming into, there's pivotal figures that'll help you transition into like a whole different world. And I guess you look back and reflect on those individuals with the Bengals who like helped kind of navigate things for you. Is there anybody that comes to mind that, you're whether still close with or just like at the time they were just like, all right, I'm going to take you a little bit under my wing. I got you.
Yep.
Let's figure it out together.
Oh, without a doubt, a guy named Tim McGee, and I talked to Tim probably like about a month and a half ago. So he was the top receiver on the team, one of the top in the league, and he took me under his wing. He showed me more than just football. He taught me about life. He was the one who told me that I made the team. I remember we were in the parking lot, and I had like a 1988 Celica, and he had like a brand new Lexus coupe. He told me, Milt, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you made the team. And oh man, I remember that like it was yesterday. Like I said, I got my 1988 Celica and he got his brand new Lexus coupe. But the fact that I had made the team and the fact that the guy who I looked up to who had took me under his wing, and he didn't have to. Tim McGee was an established guy. When he came out of college, he was a first round pick. I was a free agent, but he took me under his wing. And without him, I don't know if I would have been there 3 years because he taught me, like I say, not just about football, how to carry yourself as a professional, as a family man. So last time I talked to him, I really thanked him because he allowed me to do a lot of things that I was able to do in my football career.
Damn, it's so interesting how it's like, yeah, it's like guys like that, or it's just like I'm nothing to you, and like you still like take the time. Because I mean, you were at home for your whole life, I guess, and now you're
Yep.
moving. Talk about Winnipeg. Like, I mean, I love Winnipeg, but like it's got some grit, and I just like I gotta know
What
like
a city.
you fly into Winnipeg and you're now playing in the CFL and obviously a highly touted guy coming in. Like, whoa, what a change. And like, do you remember the first kind of times you stroll into Winnipeg and like how that was for you? And I guess just
Yes,
like that,
yes,
like
yes.
that reality check.
I remember the first thing that really stood out to me. I remember, first of all, I got to the airport and then we went to the facility right away. And I remember seeing some cars and they had like plugs coming out of them. I was like, hold on, they got electric cars already? Like, how is that possible? So I asked somebody, like, how do you have electric? Somebody was like, no, it gets so cold up here, you have to plug up your
Oh
batteries
yeah.
in the winter. So I'm like, hold on, man, what did I get myself in where it gets that cold? So that, that's the first thing I remember about Winnipeg. I'm like, okay, what did I get myself into? So I got to the facility. They had me practice right away, and I'm like, hold on, man, I haven't even taken a physical. What am I doing here? But once I got to know the city, it really started to dawn on me how in the special place I was in. It was kind of an adjustment. I was used to the hustle and bustle, and there's no expressways. There's really no traffic. But it was kind of like a reset. I had to reset and say, okay, I'm in a different place. But as they say on the license plates, friendly Manitoba, and that place took me in, and like as I alluded to, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The way I'm treated there, the people there, the relationships that I've been able to make, not just on the football field, but off the football field, are still part of my life to this very day. It was an adjustment, but it was an adjustment I'm happy I made because it made me a better person.
That's cool. I filmed, one of my first films there called Mr. Hockey and spent a lot of time in the city of Winnipeg, and the music and the culture of the city was something that
Oh man,
blew me away.
was it in the wintertime?
It was in the fall. It was getting
Okay.
close to winter. People were starting to
There,
go underground.
there is no fall. It goes from summer to winter in Winnipeg. There's no
Yeah.
fall or spring.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, well, it was late August, so it was it was mosquito season, and then it was, freezing season, so,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
it's the fans are fantastic too. They are
Oh
dying.
man, that's an understatement. That's an understatement. They're awesome.
I think it's fair to say that while we both love friendships, we both love love. And the cool thing is, charm is a part of our real life love stories.
When the time came to propose to Kat, I worked with the team at Charm to design a ring that really reflected just how much I love her.
And when Jen and I exchanged our vows, we also exchanged wedding bands from Charm. Charm isn't your average mall jewelry store. Aside from being proudly Canadian owned and operated, they're also so proud to be a part of your love stories.
You can buy something right from the case, or like me, you can design something custom and one of a kind.
I'm many things, Ty, but I'm not a jewelry designer. That's where Charm comes in to help with the assist.
And not only does Charm have the most incredible selection of gifts for literally anyone in your life, they come with warranties, unbeatable pricing policies, free cleanings, financing plans, and so much more.
Charm Diamonds has been around for over 50 years, and you can shop in one of their many stores across Canada or online. Visit charmdiamonds.com now.
And that like community feel, I guess, like going in from a big market. I guess it's not like there's a mindset change, but going into that now you're a little bit of the leader. You can kind of start to take guys under your own wing. Like, how was that for you? As you start to progress in your career and as you start to be the star that you were.
Well, my first 2 years, that wasn't the case. I mean, my first 2 years, I was and I always lead by example. I mean, if you watch what I do, you can learn from me the way I carry myself on and off the field. But in my third year, 1997, a guy came in as head coach named Jeff Reinbold. And Jeff Reinbold he's an eclectic individual, to say the least. But he had more impact on my football career than any coach I've ever been around, because he told me, yes, you are a leader by what you do and the way you carry yourself, but I need you to be a leader by what you say. This is not only your team, but this can be your city. And he said that to me, and I started looking at things in a different way. I started getting more in the community. I started speaking more to guys on the team and letting them know what they need to do and how they need to react to things. And that just opened up so many more doors for me. It allowed me to come out of my shell. And I know that sounds crazy, but my first 2 years, and you asked the head equipment guy there, Brad Foddy, he was like, I don't know where this Milt Stegall came from, but it's pretty cool to see him because I didn't say much my first 2 years. But when Jeff Reinbold said that to me, that just changed me, not only as a football player, but as a person. And maybe it was just something that was already in me, but it hadn't come out yet. But once that came out of me, I mean, everything just started changing for me on and off the field. And you could see guys starting to react to me differently, saying, okay, now you're more vocal. Now we know how to follow you. Now we know where you're coming from. So that conversation I had with Jeff Reinbold back in 1997 was a game changer in so many ways.
That's interesting, and I think a lot of leaders that you see. I know my dad, Coach Shane Doan, he talked about how when you're a little more quiet in the beginning, the words that you do choose to speak have a lot more impact later on down the line. It sounds like those first couple of years, I assume there were guys in the room that saw that transition of you being a little more reserved, a little more quiet, a little more leading by example. Do you think that has a bigger impact then when you have that shift and become that more vocal person in the room and in the community, like having established yourself as, this is how I perform, this is how I prepare, and now you've sort of earned the ability to come in and speak, or do you think guys can just, do that out of the gate and still have the same impact?
No, I don't think so. And maybe some guys, but you have to come in and establish yourself. Guys aren't only going to listen to what you say based on what you do. Now, if you're saying great things and you're not doing great things, you're not carrying yourself in the right way, it doesn't matter what you say. So the fact that I came in and I was professional on and off the field, once I finally started talking, guys are going to pay attention. They're going to listen to me because they know my actions already backed up what I'm saying. So you have to do the right things before you say the right things. Regardless of what you say, if you're not doing what you need to do and carrying yourself in the right way, it doesn't matter. And I think the most important thing in being a leader is sometimes you got to go in a different direction. You get to that crossroads, you get to that wishbone, and sometimes you got to go straight. You got to create your own path because following the masses sometimes is not what leaders do. Sometimes leaders go in their own direction, and that direction they're going in, others will follow them. So the main thing is just making sure you're doing the right thing. Like I say, words mean nothing if your actions aren't what they need to be.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
And you briefly touched on it, and I think it deserves a little bit more attention. It's just like the community of Winnipeg, and like I said, like it's gritty, but like there's some incredible people, and like they love their bombers, they love their Jets. Like I guess not if you had to write a note to the community of Winnipeg, but how did that really shape you as an individual, as an athlete, and also just like it allowed you to have the success and probably in some ways that you did just because you knew that you had the support, you knew that you had the love. I guess, how did that carry into your life and into your perspective and into now, I guess, what you're doing? And I'm sure a lot of athletes do come for you for advice based around leadership and everything. So talk to me about like the community of Winnipeg.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say enough thank yous. And I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but after my son passed, and when I went back to Winnipeg, the ovation, the love, support that I received, I mean, I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised. I
Yeah.
was surprised because it was just so much, but I wasn't surprised because I know the community. I know how the individuals, not only in Winnipeg but throughout Manitoba, how much love and the way they treat me is just so special. And it's been that way from day one. And that treatment embedded in me, instilled in me, allowed me to be a better individual. And I've always thought that I've been a good individual. I had a great foundation and my parents, but what I learned from so many people throughout Winnipeg, people who worked at the Bomber office, being out in the community, going throughout Manitoba, places like Brandon and Niverville and all over Manitoba, and meeting these individuals and hearing their stories just allowed me to be a better individual on the football field, in life, as a parent, as a husband, as a broadcaster, as a friend, as a brother, as an uncle, all those things. I owe a lot of that to the time I've spent in Winnipeg and the individuals I met. So there's not enough thank yous I can say, and not enough bows I can give to all the individuals throughout Manitoba, because without them, without the friendships, without the time I spent in Winnipeg and throughout Manitoba, I'm not the person that I am today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you said it, you mentioned it. And obviously, grief is a wild, wild world. And I just want to, first off, just mention that as someone that's also been through a lot of grief, I really respect and admire the way you've carried yourself. And, I think I wrote it down, but it was originally from your mom. And it was originally about the fact that, she told me to go play my basketball game, mentioning about your father's
Yes.
passing.
Yes.
And she said, yes, you grieve, but you have to keep living. You have to keep moving. And I think that's something that it's true, and it's hard because at times, you also mentioned how, like, getting back to, like, your energetic self was you feel guilty and you feel like, "Can I be doing this?" And I just wanna talk about your community. When your son passed, it's interesting how people really show up for you and how people really show up when you are at your lowest. I guess when your son passed, like, how was that for you? I mean, at times, I'm sure you wanna just curl up in a ball and never come out, but it's interesting how people lift you up and people pick you up. And I
Yeah.
just wanna, I'd love for you to highlight, whether it's a couple individuals or just, like, the football community as a whole, the sports community, talk about that.
Yes. And you're talking about crawling up in that ball. There's still days. There's still
Yeah.
days. And I mean, you face grief, and I'm sure you have too, Dylan. There's still days, but as you mentioned, we have to keep moving. But there's a strong foundation. I have a strong foundation like no other. My best friend in the world, Jerry Wilkerson. I mean, if I asked him to move down, oh, I'm just trying to compose myself. Hold on, give me a second.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If I asked him to move down to Atlanta, he would. Uh, another good buddy of mine who's supposed to be on here right now. I'm gonna call him out. Davis Sanchez. He's been a strong foundation. Of course, my CFL on TSN panel, and Caden and Enoch, and the producers, and Jamie, and Troy, and Paul La Police, and everyone else who works at TSN, Rod, and Dwayne Ford, and all these people. I have a strong foundation. My wife, my son. There's so many people who have been here for me, my friends here in Atlanta, that if and there's any time I call any of these folks, wherever they are, they'll follow me. They'll come down here and support me like no other. There's so many other people I can name. Wade Miller, he came down from Winnipeg. There's another lady who does a lot of work for me, Brenda Bourne. She came down from Winnipeg and was out here supporting me. So my former colleague Dave Randorf, he came down from. So there's so many people, and it makes it so special to know that there's so many people. And sometimes I want to be by myself. I don't need anyone. I just want to be by myself. I talk to God. I talk to Chase. We have conversations, and that's fulfilling also. But when you have that strong foundation, when you have family and friends who are willing to do whatever it takes to be there for you, it makes it easy. And it's not easy, but it makes it easier.
Right.
As I tell everyone, we're dealing with different things every single day, but we're also slowly getting better every day, and we're just trying to keep it moving. Is it ever going to be out of our system? No. And I don't want it to be out of my system. I want to think about him every day. I want to think about him all the time. We had some great memories together. He was on this earth for 20 years, and he impacted so many, and he made such a difference in so many individuals' lives, including ours. So I want to think about him, but I also don't want it to consume us where it's overtaking our lives, and I'm not going to let that happen. My wife and I, we make sure that we put our 17-year-old in a position where he's also thriving. So we think about it, but we don't let it consume us, and I'm thankful for that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You talk about all the people that were there to support you, and I think those relationships, obviously they're grown and they're maintained before those moments of adversity pop up. And a big part about this podcast is mental health, obviously, and
Yes.
maintaining relationships
Yes.
over distance and time. Can you speak a little bit about how you maintain? You've got such a wide net and so many people that have shown up for you and obviously are important in your life, and you're very important in theirs. know it's a bit of a broad stroke question, but what are some of the things that you do to maintain those relationships over, time and distance?
As you mentioned, there is some time and distance, but there's always ways to communicate. There's always ways to communicate, and that's what you have to do. You have to keep communication up. And I've been fortunate that the individuals in my life, we've been communicating and we never stopped communicating. We've been
Right.
communicating before this, and we've been communicating even more after this. Yeah, you just realize how precious life is, and you guys know this. You just don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know what the next moment brings, so you can't take any of this for granted. I don't care where you live, how much money you have, who's in your life. You just gotta enjoy the moment, live in the moment, regardless of what happened in the past moment. Just live in the moment. And that's what I've been able to do with the friends and family I've had. Before I met my wife, I was somewhat a cheap wad. I didn't like to do anything. I used to say I'm going to retire at 45 years old. I saved up all my money. I mean, my first year with the Bengals, I stayed at home with my mother because that's how cheap I was. But since I met my wife, I've really been, doing a lot of things I don't know if I would have been doing if I didn't meet her. And we've been, just trying to live life to the fullest. It's always been that way, but I realize now that it has to be that way even more because, as we know, in a drop of a dime, life can be taken away from you. So it's good having those individuals around you who also understand that, who also try to live life to the fullest and not in a bad way, but just enjoying things, not saying, let's wait till tomorrow. No, let's do it now. Let's
Fair.
enjoy it now. And whatever happens tomorrow will happen tomorrow, but let's live in the moment and enjoy it now. So I'm very fortunate that I have individuals around myself, family and friends who are also okay with living in the moment and enjoying every single moment to the fullest.
Right. You mentioned about being that transition from being a quote unquote cheap water type water.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I forget who said the quote, but it's beautiful. If you're feeling lonely, spend time with someone else. If you're feeling like you don't have enough, give. There's these feedback loops that seem to happen when you're living in a place of scarcity and you start, giving. It seems the feedback loop is abundance. Clearly, you've got that sort of figured out. That transition you talk about, going from that mindset switch from I got to keep it all to myself to now,
Right,
okay.
right, right.
Do you find the same thing happening with you get more back than you give?
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. Yes, I've always, and I get this from my parents, in particular my father. He was a big giver. He was a giver to a fault. It almost cost him financially so much. He owned real estate, and people would say, "Well, I can't pay," and he was like, "Okay, let's whatever you can pay." And my mother would be like, "No, this is part of our. We got 5 kids. We got to support our kids." So, yes, yes, the more you give, the more you get back, and it's not always money. It doesn't always have to be money. It can be with your time. It can be with your talents. But there's too many times where people just want to hold everything in and be selfish and say, if I'm not getting anything out of this, I don't want to give anything. But the thing you get out of it is seeing someone get better. And once that happens, man, there's no price you can put on that. There's nothing that can be more gratifying, more satisfying than seeing somebody else better off than what they were by what you did for them. So me seeing that, that's the ultimate gift. I don't need any type of recognition. I don't need anyone saying, you don't have to say thank you. Just you being a better person, your life getting better, or you being able to help out your kids or a loved one. That right there is a thank you for me. So I understood that at a young age, like I say, seeing my parents, in particular my father, do that, and I try to do it as much as I can.
You said it perfectly, like the offering others what you have to give. Like, not, I don't mean money, I mean your time, your storytelling, your concern. It's not so hard. And I think it's true. And I think, it does open up a perspective to you when you do go through something about what other people are going through, and holding that extra ounce of empathy and compassion sometimes. And I know your mom worked at Shriners for, what was it, 3 decades? So I mean, I know
You
that
did
she
your
probably.
homework. You did
Yeah,
your
yeah. Well,
homework.
I just have so much respect for our frontline workers, and
Yes,
to be
yes.
a nurse, like, I mean, I just got utmost love and respect for
Mm.
individuals that are able to do something like that. And I'd imagine that compassion really, has shined through for you now. And I think, one of my favorite athletes, Kobe Bryant, said it perfectly. He said, "May you find the power in understanding the journey of others and helping create your own." And we're all on a journey, and you never know
Yes.
what's going to happen tomorrow. But my question is storytelling and the fact that you have been vocal and you have been open about your son's passing and how hard grief and the highs and lows of grief. And I think now I realize there's a lot of power in a story, and all we want is a relatable story, especially from somebody that we maybe never thought we'd be able to relate with. I guess the story you're storytelling now, how has that helped, expand your relationships and really like, grow things with your even like your boys, like
Yep. Yep.
it's so I'll leave it with that.
My story has changed, but I think my story now, and as you mentioned, may help others out. They may see that I've gone through something, but I still have a story to tell, and I'm still standing. I'm still smiling. I'm still happy. I'm still joyful, and that may help someone else out. You never know who's listening to your story. You never know what ear your story may fall on and may help someone out. So I want even more people to hear my story and understand that yes, there is some tragedy. Yes, there is some grief, but yes, there's still some smiling going on. There's still happiness that we can get out of this. I was listening to my wife sent me an interview, and I can't remember the young lady's name, and she was talking about after her husband passed, and they asked her, "What are you going through?" And she's like, "It's a tragic or a happy nightmare." Basically, yes, there's sadness, but there's so many great memories that we have of him that we think about now, and that's the same with me. There is some tragic, there is some sadness, but the memories we have, they override all that. They trump all that because we have so many of them. So my story is, like I said, is different, but there's still a story to tell, and there's still people who need to hear it because I believe my story will have an impact now like no other.
I think, yeah, even with the grief world, grief is one of the most profound forms of love, to have loved and to have lost. And I heard that, and I think it really opens up your eyes to the fact that it's true. Like you got to love and you got to have a whole lot of love. I do find that, it's hard. There's lows, there's a lot of hard days. But I think when that beauty comes from grief, it really does, bring you some joy. Milt, I just truly like thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for, showing people that you can find joy again and you can get back out there and you can be yourself and you can give. And I think I'm sure it's important, but I know it's important.
It's very important. And there was a quote, and I heard this at a funeral, and it's one of the most profound quotes, in my opinion, I ever heard. And the guy, the pastor said, "Once we're born, we look like our parents, but when we die, we look like our decisions. Our decisions, we look like
Wow.
our decisions. And the decisions we make and the people we impact is what we look like when we pass away, when we meet our demise." So I just wanted to get that out there because that means so much to so many, in my opinion.
We talk about bromance, we talk about friendships, we talk about connections, and I think, you mentioned it briefly, your connection with faith. My billet parents in Humboldt, Saskatchewan are one of the most lovely, most special, most extraordinary people I'll ever meet. There's my second mom and dad, and they also have a big relationship with their faith. And I want to talk to you for the individuals that are listening that also have that relationship with their faith. How did that help you? How did that give you like that foundation, that place to go, that community? Like, how did that help?
Yeah, yeah. And I'll be 100% honest with you. When it first happened, I was questioning my faith. There were some questions. I'm thinking like, hold on. I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was doing it. And then you're going to do this to me?
Mhm.
But then it made me realize, and I put everything, or I put this in football perspective. In football, you have a offensive coordinator, right? They call the plays on offense. And maybe 75, 80% of the time, the plays don't go right. Something goes wrong. It's the wrong play. A receiver doesn't catch the ball. The offensive line doesn't block. Something always goes wrong 75, 80% of the time. In life, this is the way I look at it. God is the offensive coordinator, and he's never called a bad play. He's never called. It's not the
Wow.
play we always want to be called,
Yeah.
but he's never called a bad play. And every single play he's called is for the betterment of the team. We may not see it right away, but it's for the betterment of the team. So once God told me that, because I asked him for an answer, I'm like, God, I need an answer. You need to tell me something, because my faith is being questioned right now. And I'm a man of strong faith. My parents, they put a foundation in me and my siblings that were strong faith. Even when my father died, I was like, okay, I understand this, and I was happy that I had him for 18 years of my life. And there were people who never knew their father, and I had him for 18 years of my life. He instilled in me that I was able to make me a man. But once that happened to my 20-year-old son, there were a lot of questions. And I asked him for an answer, and that was the answer he gave me.
Oh, that's powerful, man.
Yep.
That's really
Yep.
beautiful, and I think, it's on a different scale and magnitude, but Ty's a quote guy. One of my favorite quotes is, "You thank God for unanswered prayers," and I look back on my own journey and some of the things that I wanted, that I thought I wanted more than anything in the world, that didn't pan out the way that I thought they were going to, and then you look back with the benefit of hindsight, and you go, "Wow, thank thank God that did not happen.
Yes.
Thank the
Yes.
universe that I ended up on this path to where I am now, because, these things that I didn't realize at the time were part of a plan, or a bigger blueprint that you
Right.
you don't
Right.
understand until you get to look back on it, and it,
Exactly. Yep.
your time in Winnipeg and the NFL, and
Yes. Yes.
I think that's something that is important to remember when we're going through those tough times. Is, this may not make sense now,
Right.
but there may
Right.
be
Right.
a
Right.
time.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. And I'll be honest with you again. There's still every now and then there's still questions. There's still I'm human. I still got questions. I still have questions. I'm gonna have questions for the rest of my life. But my faith is still strong. It's still strong.
Last question, because I'm always intrigued by what works for people. And I think this is something that we shouldn't be the one that give people allowance to do what's best for them. But in a lot of ways, like that first step is the hardest step, and, not getting discouraged along the way. And I know that you've probably had trial and error with what's going to work and everything, but through it all, though, we'll leave our listeners with this last question. What has worked for you on your off days? Picking yourself back up, finding some joy again. I know you have, such an amazing son, and I know you have such an amazing family. And I think that is always something that's going to pick you up. But what works for Milt? Like, what works for you?
What works for me, of course, you mentioned my son. The fact that he's doing well, that makes life easier. The fact that my wife is doing well, that makes life easier. But what gets me in my place, and we talked about this earlier, is just being able to exercise. Exercise is a big thing for me. And at the beginning, it was tough because before my son passed, whenever I had a problem, exercising got me out of everything. That was, like I mentioned, that was my drug, my therapy, my vice, but it wasn't getting it for me right away. But now it allows me to spend time with Chase. More so now, that's what I'm doing. So when he was training, I was training, I was always say, Chase, come on, you got to give me more than that. But he's saying it to me now. Come on, Dad, you got to give me more than that. You got to give. So that is my place now. That is my space with Chase when I'm working out. That's when we're conversing. That's when we're talking. That's when he's kicking me in the butt like what I used to do to him. Not literally, but figuratively kicking him.
Yeah.
Come on, Dad. That's all you got? You told me you wanted to play Division I soccer. You got to give me more than that. So that is my space with Chase right there. That's when we converse. We talk about so many things in life. So that's my space right there. When I'm out there running, when I'm out there challenging myself, when I'm out there being uncomfortable, that's when Chase comes in and say, "Okay, Dad, keep it going." We have these conversations, and that's my space that I have with my son, Chase.
Wow.
Well,
I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
we
Milt. I mean, we can't thank you enough, Dylan. You were just about to say the exact same thing, I think, but like
took the words out of my mouth.
you show up with authenticity, you show up with relatability, and you show up with a profound perspective that, as an individual with a story like yours, you probably had moments where you didn't have to, where you're like, do I really need to do this? But you continue to do that. And I think, you'll probably never realize how many people you're inspiring, and I just mean that from the bottom of Bromance's heart. We have so much love for you, your family, and your relationship with your faith, your relationship with your grief. We admire that. We admire you, and thank you so much for being here today.
And thanks for having me on, guys. You just don't realize how therapeutic this is for me, just talking about it, because I'm a talkative person, but I usually don't express my feelings. But since this happened, I've been an open book, and I think it's been good for me and my wife and my son and everyone around me. So thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it.
You.
Yep.
Cheers. Charm has been a part of Canadian love stories for over 50 years, and as much as they played a huge role in Ty's love story, they played an equally huge role in my love story with my beautiful wife, Jennifer. So our wedding bands came from Charm. We're in it right now, and it was important for me to find something that I was excited to wear every day, that I felt was unique, stylish, expressed the love between Jen and I, and something that I was excited to wear. And of course, Charm was the only option for us. So we went in there and had a pretty clear idea of what it was that I wanted, and they were able to present multiple options, and it was quick and easy, and I found the perfect one. And on the day, it was a pretty quick turnaround from the time that I went into the store and we were going to be saying our vows. So one of the representatives at the Charm store was gracious enough to ensure that I had a ring for the wedding day. So they express shipped a ring that was one size too big because they had it in stock. I was able to have that on my hand for the I do's, and then we were able to get the proper ring sized shortly thereafter. So they really jumped through hoops to make the day special, and Jen was equally as impressed with her wedding band. So Charm has been a part of many love stories, including mine and Jen's. And Charm is the proud sponsor of our podcast, Bromance.